speaking of wild time in the NFL, there's one team that's been making a lot of plays this offseason. A man that brought me into the NFL, who I am eternally grateful for. Now the general manager for the Los Angeles Chargers. Brought in Khalil Mack on a trade. J.C. Jackson, how you doing? Keep it moving. Coming to Los Angeles. Mike Williams, we're locking you down. Very active, very talented squad that he has built. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Telesco.
Hey,
Tom, what's up, man?
How you doing?
Hey, we're trying to break down the entire situation that's going on, and I don't want to ask you about how you can just say, hey, a $7.5 million bonus that's due on Friday. You get that on Tuesday now. I'm assuming there's some sort of litigation in there. Let's talk about what you've been doing. Very active this offseason, Tom. It's been awesome to watch. How come?
Appreciate it.
Is this new for you? Is this standard for you? Did you see a lot of opportunity? Why do you think you've been so active, and what do you think you've really added to the squad with these great players?
Yeah, each year is a little bit different just based on where your football team is, where your resources are, what the circumstances are at that time. So this year, we had more cap space than usual. I think when you have, obviously we have Justin Herbert on a rookie contract. Our left tackle is on a rookie contract, so that will open up some space for us. So that was big. And then at least going into free agency, we were the smallest amount of dead cap money in the league going into free agency. So that opens up some space there. And then we got 20 draft picks over last year and this year. So a lot of resources for this year. And I want to make sure we use that. So that enabled us to go after a Khalil Mack that we think is going to be a great fit, to sign a J.C. Jackson, make some other moves, try and get this team going.
Hey, not normal for you. By the way, congrats on all this. Because the lack of dead cap space is because of the deals that you've put together. And the amount of draft picks that you have is because of the decisions that you and your team have made over the years. So you've put yourself into a great spot here. With the salary cap climbing, is this something you you see yourself continuing to do, or is it just as need? Like J.C. Jackson was going to be top dollar, but he was linked to you guys early. Like, hey, the Chargers are getting J.C. Jackson. And for me, because you come from the Napoleon tree, because of how you've operated, like that doesn't sound like something Tom Telesco would do. So you love JC on the film, and we're like, hey, this is a guy who puts us over the hump if we get him in our secondary.
Yeah, as we build the team, we want to draft and draft well. We'd like to re-sign our own players where we can, but you can't just do it that way. We have to supplement that with free agency. But it kind of depends on where you are with your football team. We had a lot of space this year, so we're able to use that. We'll see where we are next year. But with J.C. Jackson, he really fits the style that we need in the secondary right now. And then obviously last year when Brandon Staley came in, the new staff came in, it's hard to transition everything on 1 year on both sides of the ball. Last year we hit the offense pretty hard. This year we're trying to transition the defense a little bit. JC has those man cover skills that we really need out of corner. He's got tremendous ball skills. He turns the ball over consistently, which is big. So that was a big money signing. I might have to dip in your FanDuel money to try and get that done. But it was good. We needed that.
No, I might have to dip into the FanDuel money to get some Colts. See that? They have all the money in the world and we ain't doing nothing. The patience is a virtue until you miss everything. But it's not about that, okay? It's about the Chargers right now. You talked about last year and Brandon Staley, how you invested in the offense and now you're invested in the defense. And last year was a disappointment, I assume, for everybody in the building. But what were realistic expectations for Brandon Staley's first year as a head coach? You have a guy quarterback. You have a lot of stars on your team. So all the fans are going to expect, hey, we need a Super Bowl or bust. What did you see last year, and what were your expectations going in with Brandon Staley as a coach and the team that you guys had?
Expectations are always to make the playoffs, and that's what it was last year. And we were in mid-December last year playing Kansas City for the division lead, and we lost even mid-December, which was tough. It felt like a playoff game. It was a great atmosphere, but we lost that game and just didn't have enough down the stretch. We just didn't finish well last year. So, but look, it's a process. I knew that going into last year. Completely new staff, new offense, new defense. So there is a transition period involved there, but we think we're getting closer there. As you see, our division is unbelievable right now. We're all chasing Kansas City. Denver makes a move with Russell Wilson. We make a move with Khalil Mack. The Raiders make a move with Devontae Adams. Luckily, we signed J.C. Jackson. So, we're all just trying to keep up with each other and trying to go after Kansas City.
Yeah, the AFC West has become, the division with all eyes on it, which is probably right where you want to be. Russell Wilson said, I want to play against the best. There's a story about Charlie Casserly, I believe, drafting Mario Williams over Reggie Bush. And he did that because Peyton Manning was the quarterback for the Colts. And he said, listen, you guys want Reggie Bush, I want to beat the Colts because they're in our division. How much of that is in the planning? Because I feel like that is a great example of like, if you win the division, you get into the playoffs. How much are you thinking about the division? And every single day when you wake up and see a brand new signing in the AFC West, is it just like, shit, all right, we got to go in here and do this again? Is it bringing out the best in everybody? And is that what you have to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, high water raises all boats, and that's really what it is. I mean, competition brings out the best in everybody. In our division, I mean, it's tough, and we know that. The teams that come out of our division will be very well battle tested. So, but yeah, certainly when you build your football team, you have to look at your division opponents. Those are 6 games. They're very important games. Obviously, there's 11 others that we have to get after too. But yeah, there's no doubt. You have to look at your division, how you match up with those teams, how they match up with us as well. And what you're seeing right now, I mean, there's a lot of talent in the AFC West. But like I said, that brings out the best in all of us.
Hey, how bad did you hate Brandon Staley just hating kickers all year? You know what I mean? How bad did you? No, we got a chance to chat with him, obviously, and he was great. He's always been great on our show, and I assume he's great on the day-to-day. I don't know him as well as you or anybody in that building, but him saying, like, yeah, once we got Dustin Hopkins, though, I mean, we started kicking a little bit. He's a big, like, hey, my guys are better than your guys. In those 4th down plays where Herbert seemed to come alive, I mean, he was like 5 for 6 or something like that in 4th quarters or 4th downs and big-time plays. How did you know that's the style of coach he was going to be? And how many did you have to have conversations during the year like, hey, are we doing this all year? Like, how was that? Because he was changing the game. I mean, that was change. It was the topic of discussion everywhere. What were your thoughts on his aggressiveness and his aggressive style?
Yeah, I mean, number one, I trust him. When he goes into these games, he has a model put together of how he wants to attack that game. Dustin Hopkins did a great job for us. He came in, stabilized that kicking position, kicked very well for us. We were lucky enough to re-sign him. But, a little bit of that mentality is when you go for it on 4th down in the scoring zone, it's not so much that we could have 3. It's more with the mentality of, if we go for it here, if we kick a field goal, we're giving up potentially 4 points, with the quarterback we have and the offense we have. So it certainly wasn't a lack of confidence in Dustin. Dustin did a great job, but Brandon has a very aggressive mindset in the right situations. That's not reckless. These are well thought out to try and put an extra 4 points on the board or get a closer field goal. So we're lucky to have Dustin. But, the less we use him, the better.
Hey,
more for kickoffs and for field goals, right?
Hey, and extra points. Yeah, hey,
and extra points.
Hey, listen, you're up in that booth, though. In some of those calls, you're telling me that there isn't like, you know what I mean? Like there wasn't, I would assume you're in your suit up there like, all right, I trust them. I like what we're doing. And if it works out, just like any fake, anytime you go for it, if it works out, you're a genius. If it doesn't, you're an idiot. So I assume there's, a multitude of both of those things. But just the thought of you sitting in the booth in the suit, just being like, again, we're doing this? Like, that is.
I don't wear ties anymore, Pat. I can't handle that. So no, but it's all probability based. Even if it's an 80%, success rate, obviously 20% of the time it's not going to work. But it shows that his confidence in the defense to get the ball back. But it's an aggressive mindset. We're okay with that. It's kind of our identity. It's good to have an identity, and that's ours right now.
Yeah, it's an explosive and electrifying style of play, and I think Brandon Staley even talked about that. Like, hey, when you watch us play, like it's a
you know what you're going to get.
Yeah, it's a fun style of football. Like, you're going to enjoy it. And that pivots into the conversation about Los Angeles as a whole. And Brandon Staley talked about, hey, we're just trying to win for our team. And everybody knows in the end, if you win, the fans will come. Every team has bandwagon fans, okay? Bandwagon fans show up whenever your team's having success. And when your team stinks, they find different avenues to utilize their money and their emotions. You can't blame them for that. In Los Angeles, with the Rams winning the Super Bowl in L.A., now you guys making all these plays. Is that something you have to think about in the back of your mind about building a brand out there in LA and making this team better and having to win, or is it just the AFC West is good and you just have to worry about yourselves?
No, it certainly enters the conversation. I mean, 1A is to win. We all know that. But 1B is we want to entertain. We want to play a fun brand of football. We don't want to play these 13-10 games where you grind it out, you run the ball, and you play good defense, even though Brandon's a defensive coach. But we want to play an exciting brand of football. We want to have some stars out there. We want to have fun with this, and that's part of it. It's part of being in Los Angeles with the fan base. We're building this really fan by fan at this point. We saw huge gains this past year at the stadium. Our season ticket renewals are doing outstanding. So
hey, that's
I think people like what they see.
Yeah.
But we want to have fun. And I think our players enjoy that. Our players are engaged with that sort of philosophy and that sort of aggressive mindset and have that identity. And that's what we're after.
What did you see from Justin Herbert this last year that makes you excited for another year with him being comfortable, confident? He doesn't seem to be rattled ever. Like, it seems like he is just the same guy, and he has that fight. What do you expect from him next year, and what did you see from him this past season, maybe that we couldn't see on the field?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing this year was his preparation skills during the week. I think his first year as a rookie, you're just trying to survive. But he really learned this second year how much work goes into in the building, watching film, being in the quarterback room with Easton Stick and Chase Daniel, working with his coaches, the work he puts in on the field. So it's just growing up as a quarterback. He's still really young. I was just talking to him yesterday, and he's 2 years in the NFL. So he's still learning the game and learning what teams are trying to do to counter him. But he just did tremendous last year. Like you said, I mean, his mentality is the same in the first quarter on 1st and 10 than it is on 4th and 18 in the fourth quarter on a game we have to win to get in the playoffs. It's the same mindset. It's the same level-headedness, which is great to have in a leader. He doesn't panic in the huddle, doesn't panic in the pocket. Those qualities are hard to find.
Tom, do you have to think about his contract whenever you're doing stuff? Because that's, I don't.
Like I said, I need that FanDuel money.
Yeah. I don't know if the FanDuel, our next deal maybe, but I don't know if this deal it's a lot. But for the quarterbacks and where the salary cap is headed with these platforms that are getting involved, Amazon's in, Apple's going to come. Let's assume Google's going to come, and the money is just like fake. It is. And with the way the salary cap is now, with how you can kick things down the road, do you have to think about all that? Do you have to adjust to all these while you're signing people now? Because Herbert's going to command a lot of money because he is one of one, that guy.
Yes, absolutely. You have to. That's part of my job, is building in 2023, 24, 25, kind of projecting where the salary cap may go, and knowing we've got Justin Herbert coming up. We have Derwin James coming up. So we have to have space to re-sign. These core football players are going to be here a long time. So, that always enters into every decision we make, signing right now, a free agent, even draft as far as projecting out. We have to have that in mind with Justin Herbert, Derwin James, and some others as well.
So when you see like Christian Kirk make the money that he's making, and you see like Devontae just signed a deal. Now, Devontae McKinnon's a fucking guy. Whenever you see some of these deals that are getting made around the league, do you send text messages like, what the hell are you guys doing? Is that something? Because then automatically the rest of the market gets set too, right? And it's going to have to fall in line. Do you have conversations with others around the league, or is it just something you have to monitor?
We monitor it. Not really. I mean, I'm sure we make some moves that people say, what are they doing? That's the way it kind of works. But, as long as you scout the player and evaluate the player the right way, if you get a good player, maybe sometimes the contract doesn't line up. If you get the right player and he plays the way you think he's going to play, then everything usually works out. So Christian Kirk's he's an excellent football player, returner, play in the slot, outside. He's a really good player. But we all make moves. I know we've made moves here where people look at us and say, what are they doing? But hey, that's just part of it. There's 32 different teams, 32 different philosophies, opinions. So that's just the way it works.
Jerry Jones said, everything in my life that's been worth it, people have told me I've overpaid for. It's like, I think he was talking about his stadium at the time and the team at the time and everything like that. It's real, because the value is in the person that's writing the check. That is who decides what somebody is worth, but the market gets set there. And it also might be taxing to go some other places. Has LA become a place that you've used to attract a lot of players? Like Odell Beckham Jr. and Von Miller. They went to the Rams because, everybody said they had houses there. They loved Los Angeles. Are you finding the same thing? It's much easier to get players that want to come to Los Angeles and to the Chargers if you, as opposed to maybe like Indianapolis or a team that has been on the rocks for a while like Jacksonville?
I don't know if it's the location, but I think part of it's just the players that we have. I think having Justin Herbert helps a lot. I think having Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Khalil Mack, and I think players, they want to go where they have a chance to win and contend and win a Super Bowl. So I think, obviously, I think the location here helps, but I really do think it's more about the players we have right now and the head coach that we have and, the mentality and aggressiveness and identity that we have. I think it's probably a little bit more. But, when you have Derwin James here and Bosa and Mack, some defensive guys, hey, I want to play with this group of guys. I can make money anywhere. The money's going to be relatively the same in a lot of places, but I want to play with this group of players. So that's what I've kind of seen certainly this year.
Has Ballard called you about potentially sending Herbert to Indy or no?
I'll pick up a lot of calls. I'm not picking up that one.
All right, we don't have a quarterback. I don't know if you know that. We actually do not have a quarterback right now. Do you pay attention to everything going on around the NFL, or are you too focused on you right now in this free agency period?
No, I mean you're always monitoring the whole league, on a daily basis. Certainly Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where players are going, how much, what their contracts are. But yeah, you're constantly monitoring the league and watching what's going on and talking to people. Obviously, we get kind of focused on what we have to do, but you can't help but to watch what everybody else is doing.
Khalil Mack trade. You guys just get like a little birdie that says, hey, Khalil might be on the block, and then you kind of snoop around, and then big polls in one of his first moves as general manager, former player. Do they reach out to teams? Do you reach out? Is there like do you guys all have a group text? It's like, hey, we're thinking about trading this. How does one of those types of moves go? Because that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That came out of nowhere for a lot of us. I assume your world much differently.
Yeah, I mean, it came together pretty quick. I mean, you have general conversations with GMs a lot. Sometimes if you don't ask, you don't know. So, you ask, and maybe there's some interest there, and once we figured out on both sides that there was a good amount of interest, it went pretty quick. It wasn't something we had planned going in early in the offseason, but when it presented itself, something that we felt like, hey, this can really help the defense. To have Joey Bosa on one side, Khalil Mack on the other, not a lot different styles, obviously, but similar to Freeney and Mathis that we had in Indianapolis, to make people really respect both sides, 2 premium rushers. And so, something we jumped on, pretty quick.
So whenever you're in that, are you constantly trying to figure out what the value of each pick is that you're going to trade, or something like if a Khalil Mack comes available, this is what we'd be willing to give up for him? Is that just like a constant? Yeah, because everybody says you won that, by the way. So shout out. Shout out.
Good trade.
I mean, we'll find out, I guess. We'll find out in the end. Nobody really knows who wins. But are you constantly trying to figure out who's worth what, or does that kind of happen in the moment and you just have to go by feel?
It's a little bit of both. As in this situation, how badly do you want the player? I mean, sure, I'd rather trade them a 4th and a 5th, but I know that's not going to get it done. So, you go through those conversations. You try and come up with the value of the picks of the player, but in reality, realistically, can you really come up with that? No, you really can't. So some of it's just feel. You got to figure out what do they want, and can we do that or not? And it's the same thing with the draft when we trade draft picks pick for pick. I mean, I know we put some value on it. We do a lot of studies to see how much each pick is worth. Do we really know exactly how much that pick's worth? No, it's basically how badly do you want to move up? How badly do you want to trade back? So there are some emotions involved in that. But I think this trade, it worked for us. It worked for them. We won't know till way down the line who won the trade. I don't really care who won the trade. I only care about the player that we got. I don't really worry about what we gave up. But we're excited to add Khalil now as a player. But what's nice about that move is we're trading for a player that our head coach, I know it was only 1 year with Chicago, but he worked with him for a full year. So he knows him not only as a player, we can watch the tape and see him as a player. He knows him as a teammate, how he's going to fit in the locker room, how he fits in the scheme, which is the same scheme. So that's very helpful. So that's when you make this move, you feel better about it, more comfortable about it, because you know that our head coach and our defensive line coach worked with this player.
So you're on the phone, you hang up, and you're like, we just got Khalil Mack for a bag of balls. I can't. Is there a celebration? Is there an entire, or is it just, hey, we got to move on to the next one? Are you calm, cool, collected? But that's like a home run in the general manager world, right? Like that's Super Bowl for you.
I'll tell you what, in our business, it's like you're moving on to the next move. I walked down the hallway, I walked to Brandon's office, and I said, hey, we got him. I gave him a fist pump. He looked at me like, we got who? I said, we got Khalil. It's all set. I gave him a fist pump, and I walked out. Move on to the next move. Now, he was a little more excited, I think. You're always thinking about the next thing, and especially at that point, because we hadn't started free agency yet. So, we got Khalil coming on. We got his contract coming on. So now we get, it did change how we're going to attack free agency. Because, like I said, the Mac thing kind of came together pretty quick at the end.
So there's waves to this free agency. Obviously, the legal tampering period starts on Monday, and it feels like a lot of deals kind of get done then. And then Wednesday at 4 o'clock, you have the press conferences of all the players, and there's some more signings. Then it's kind of fallen off a little bit and kind of died down. Do you see you guys being done? Are you always working? And when do you see more moves being made? Are some of these veteran guys choosing to kind of wait till teams kind of go through the draft and maybe do it later? What is your feel on when the rest of this trade free agency period might continue to ramp up?
It was really interesting. There was a lot of activity on Monday. Typically, there's a lot of activity on Tuesday. This Tuesday it was relatively quiet. Kind of picked up again Wednesday. we have a couple of things we're working on right now still. I mean, not to the level of a J.C. Jackson or Khalil Mack, but we have some things we're working on still. But in essence, free agency, it never ends. I mean, it goes all the way through March. And, yeah, there may be some players Wayne is trying to see where the best spots are for them. I think once you get into April, teams more turn their attention to the draft. So we'll see. But there's still a lot of players out there. But, we're still working on a couple of things. We'll see if they work out. But it just never ends.
Tom, if you could, take some of your time where you're not working, just figure out who the right quarterback would be for the Colts. That'd be great. We do not have a quarterback. I don't know if you know, they're still not a quarterback. So I saw you guys sign Chase Daniels. Kind of fucked up. Like, you already got Herbert. Maybe we get Chase. But hey, nonetheless, we'll figure it out.
You guys, I know one thing. I know Frank Reich really well. I know Chris Ballard. I would trust those guys. They know what they're doing.
Well, I have, Tom. Tom, I have. All right, I want to let you know.
Just trust them. They'll be all right.
Blinders on. Just trust the process. A couple questions from the boys here, Tom. We appreciate you joining us. Talking to General Manager of the Chargers. Go ahead, Connor.
Yeah, Tom, when you're going after like a very sought-after corner like J.C. Jackson in free agency, do you know what other teams are offering him, or are you just communicating with the agents and just kind of bouncing numbers back and forth off him?
Yeah, so great question. So no, we don't know what other offers. You're strictly dealing the team, and we're dealing with that agent. So we don't know what other teams are involved. We don't know what the other offers are. In this particular situation with Neil Schwartz, we have a great relationship with him. We trust him, work through it really well. But part of our, you have to vet the player, do all the background work we can, because we haven't seen this player since he came out of college. But also part of it, what our pro staff does is try and get a feel for what other teams are going to be in that market for a corner. Who needs a corner, what their cap space is like, any connections that may be there. So maybe we can figure out who the other teams are involved. Sometimes it doesn't matter. I mean, in the end, we have to have an aggressive contract offer available, and we have to have a situation, recruiting-wise, that the player wants to come to. So a lot of it is on us, but we do try and figure out, scouting-wise, like who may be involved in this.
Tom, salary cap's fake. You know that?
I do not know that.
Well, Tom, it's fake.
It's newsflash.
Have you not? The Saints cleared $100 million in 2.5 weeks, didn't cut anybody. This new signing bonus, get the money right. Adam Thielen just opened up $14, $15 million. Signing bonus now to spray out the number through the entire years of the contract. That's why there's 6 years deals with 4 years voidable. What are your thoughts on that? That seems to be the new trend almost. Let's assume the NFL will put an end to it at some point, because it feels like there's a big asterisk next to the salary cap right now with how it's working. What are your thoughts on that? And have you had to look into that? Do you have a salary cap guru on the squad that has to do all that type of stuff?
Yes, we do. We have a couple gurus. We have Ed McGuire, does a tremendous job. We have Katie Sylvan, who we just hired, does a great job. Michael Spanos works. We've got a 3-person crew that handles this. But I guess my view on the cap's a little different than yours. I mean, it's a hard cap. There's no trends. I mean, teams have been restructuring contracts since I came in the league in 1995. So that's nothing new. I mean, yeah, you can clear space for this year. It's going to catch up to you at some point, whether it's 22, 23, 24. You have to pay it at some point. It's kind of like having a credit card. You may not have to pay it off all at once. You may be able to pay off a little bit now. Eventually, you'll have to pay it. So the restructuring of contracts, making space this year, I mean, that's just normal, common business that we've been doing for years.
Okay, well, it feels like it's all one big fugazi. Yep. What some of these teams are doing, because we're watching the salary cap each year because the Colts have the most. So obviously I'm looking at that, and then we have the worst. The Saints were $71 million over the projected cap, and then now they're $31 million under. It's without cutting anybody. I don't know how that works, but I guess it's a new world with the signing bonus. You're just saying restructuring has been happening for a long time.
Yeah, it seems like people ask more about it now than ever. Before it was just work that we did, but yeah, I mean you're essentially just pushing money forward. It will catch up at some point. And the Saints do a great job. Because they're competitive every year, really good roster, but. Yeah, part of being a really good organization is having salary cap people like we have here with Ed and Katie and Michael that can maneuver these contracts, make sure we're signing the right contracts on the way in with players. Big part of the process. I mean, it's a hard cap. I mean, it's not like basketball where it's a soft cap or baseball where they have luxury tax. So we do have to stay under it. We have to always plan for the future. It's more than just scouting the player on tape.
So when you see like Devontae gets traded to the Raiders, is that something you knew he was potentially on the block, or were you blindsided by that as well as some other GMs probably are like, didn't know Devontae was available? That would have been awesome. Is that something you knew was available or knew potential, and did you snoop into it?
I mean, I kind of knew, but I kind of knew we were kind of set at that spot, so there's not much I could do about it. But I kind of knew that was, maybe a possibility. I was kind of hoping he may end up in a different division, but I also knew that the Raiders were, probably a likely destination for him.
So is there anything that happens that surprises you, or do you feel like you guys in the general manager roles around the NFL pretty much dialed into almost everything? Because we see all the bullshit, baby. Like we hear reports of this, reports of this. Is there anything that surprises you guys?
Oh yeah. No, there's moves that happen that catch you off guard. I mean, there's 32 teams, and there's talks that go on, and as you know, sometimes those talks get public, sometimes they get leaked by insiders, and sometimes they don't get out at all. So yeah, there's no doubt. There's things that pop that you had no idea that was coming. Kind of makes it exciting. I mean, it's an entertainment business too. So, but every now and then, just from talking with people, sometimes you know what's coming down the pipe every now and then.
How do you feel about contracts being reported as the big fake contract, and then like the real contracts kind of fall in the? For instance, Von Miller, 6 years, $120 million. That's a 3-year, like $50-something million deal contract, but it's being reported as 6-year 120. I think it's because of the salary cap move. Is that something you have to think about whenever you sign guys, or do you just not care about any of that? That's not really.
I mean, the public numbers I don't really even look at. So we kind of wait till the contracts get in the system. Usually it takes a couple of days, and we'll look at it. Ed, we'll kind of break those numbers down for down the road to see what the real numbers are, see what the comps are. But the actual numbers that come out right after the signing really really don't pay attention to those.
Tom, when you got into the NFL way back, you were in Buffalo with Bill? I don't remember. Were you in Buffalo?
I was a summer intern in Buffalo when I was in college when Bill was there.
So how many years ago?
My first full-time job was the Carolina Panthers.
How many years ago was that?
1995 was my first year with the Panthers, yeah.
Okay, so 27 years you've been around the NFL and been in the NFL. Do you remember back in the day those contracts? This guy signs for 4 years, $450 million. 449 of that million is only available if he cures cancer. He like that used to be like the thing. I think it's because it made agents look better, it made the league look better and all that. We're still kind of in that, but it feels like we're getting to it a little bit more.
I just remember in 1995, so the salary cap was relatively new. And Bill Polian would have a yellow legal pad and a pencil, and he'd write all the players' names out. He'd write out their contract numbers, which at that point, was base salary, signing bonus proration, maybe incentives. There wasn't a lot there. He'd write all out with a pencil, and then he'd give it to me, and I would just, on a really rudimentary spreadsheet, would kind of type in the numbers and just kind of keep it accurate for him. I have no idea if he ever used it when I give him back a sheet of paper with it all printed out. I have no clue, but it's come a long way since then, obviously. Now we've got 3 people that handle the cap. But things have changed a lot. The numbers have gone up tremendously. I mean, the base salary for a minimum when I came in the league, I think was maybe, $200,000 or something like that. So, yeah, it's gone up tremendously.
What's vet min now? 800?
I mean, it depends how many years in the league, but obviously for a veteran player, it's $1 million, the veteran minimum.
And what's the rookie min? What's the rookie min?
I don't have it with me, 600-700.
Yeah, but see, that new CBA was supposed to get the veteran min guys more money, but instead it's like, they actually saved $400,000. You get 2 of those guys. I mean, it's like the game that's always being played. Does Bill Polian ever reach out to you now? Do you still talk to Bill Polian?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you always got to keep in touch with your mentors. So, I keep in touch with them. I'll run things by him every now and then. I mean, he's a wealth of knowledge, so it's got kind of good to have him on speed dial.
He's got to be proud of you, dude. We all are, man, by the way. Absolutely crushing it. Last question here from the boys. Go ahead, Ty.
Tom, you kind of mentioned it earlier, but when you go into an offseason and you know that you're going to be very active in trying to sign free agents or trade for guys, like how far are you pushing your draft prep off? Like, and especially when you guys aren't a team that's going to be picking, in the top 10 or whatever, but is it really you just kind of wait until free agency's done and then you address that a couple weeks before the draft starts?
Well, this is the thing people tend to forget in this business. So, we have a pro scouting staff, 4 people that work on pro scouting year round. We have a college scouting staff that works on college scouting year round, 7, 8 guys. That's all they do. So I rely on our pro staff, our college staff. as we get ready for free agency and get ready for the draft. I'll kind of go parallel lines in March, kind of work on draft a little bit of free agency. But we have a tremendous staff. Our college staff, Kevin Kelly and all of our scouts, they've been working on that 24/7. So I rely on those guys to narrow things down, get the board set. This is not a one-man show. This is a pretty big department of people. We talked about the cap people, but our scouting department is pretty large, and you have to trust them to do their jobs, which I do implicitly. They do a great job. So they work on that. It kind of comes all together. I'll kind of tie a bow around it as we get towards the draft, but they do a tremendous job.
How happy are you don't have to find a quarterback? Oh, that has to feel pretty good. That guy from Oregon just fell to 6.
Yeah.
Stud.
6'6", runs a 4.4, absolute stud. Tom, we can't thank you enough for joining us. I know you're very busy. Thank you for the time. You've always been incredibly nice. You're the man.
Appreciate it. Love coming on. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Hey, no problem. Whenever we get out there, we can't wait to come see you.
Let's go anytime.
All right, cool. Because the Chargers social media is so damn good. You guys, prime to go. We appreciate you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Bring the show out. Thanks.
Oh.
On location.
From your office.
You still got that ping pong table?
Yes, we do. Yep.
How are you? You stopped playing probably, huh? Because you were a little busy or no?
Yeah. I'll start practicing. You come out. We'll go.
All right, I'll pick the paddle back up too. Ladies and gentlemen,
how about you and Justin Herbert? You and Justin Herbert will play.
Is he a player?
I'm assuming he's probably pretty good at it. He's pretty much pretty good at everything. So pretty good ping pong player.
Me too. Ladies and gentlemen, Tom Telesco. Hey, I bet he is pretty good.
I would assume.
Had older brothers.
Yep.
Very athletic.
Long.
I ain't worried about that. Little drop shot, get that big son of a bitch off
Yep.
his toes.
Bingo.
I ain't worried about nothing.